First of all, if you don't mind, speak to you about this hack on Kido nurseries. Is the government able to do anything to help this nursery group and also those concerned parents who find their data and their kids' data held to ransom by this hacking group?
Yeah, the actions of the hacking group are really concerning, and I can understand for all of the parents involved why they would be so worried about it. My understanding is that the company have referred themselves to the Information Commissioner's Office. The police have opened an investigation, and of course the government stands ready. The Department for Education has been in touch with the company, and we're in dialogue with them to support them where we need to. And this underscores, doesn't it, the importance of tackling the sort of vulnerabilities that companies have to cyber attacks, whether it's Jaguar Land Rover, this childcare company, the Co-op or Marks and Spencer's, and the government has got really robust advice for companies about how to protect themselves through authentication checks and all sorts of measures that they should put in place, because when this happens, it's often too late then to have go back into the process of putting measures in place. So the best thing companies can do is get themselves ready to be resilient against these sorts of attacks in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't mention Harrods as well. That's another one we've had this morning. You say that companies need to be resilient. One wonders if the government is going to be resilient enough. You've announced these digital ID cards. You'll know there is loads of concern about whether or not the government can keep our data safe.
Look, the argument for digital ID is a big debate about how we modernise our country. We have, and loads of people see this in their day-to-day interactions with the state, we have loads of examples of people having delays waiting for things, far too much paperwork, loads of bureaucracy, delays and frustration. I've got constituents, for example, who often end up waiting months to start important jobs in the NHS because it takes us far too long to do right-to-work checks. So the debate about digital ID is about modernising the state, it's about bringing it into the 21st century, and doing that involves some disruptive change. That's what the Labour Party is all about, because we know that the public are dissatisfied with how the state currently works. And I'd argue really strongly that measures like digital ID actually help protect against fraud and data. Data ID fraud is one of the fastest growing crimes in the country. Digital ID is a direct way of tackling that. So there's loads of reasons why we should do digital ID. I'm really supportive of the measure, and it's basically about whether or not the UK will keep up with lots of other countries that have got the benefits of this, whether it's Sweden, Denmark, Estonia, Australia, where they are modernising their state. And we in the Labour Party are all about bringing the state into the 21st century so that the public can get the benefit of it.
Right, well, I'm interested to know you didn't mention anything about tackling illegal migration in that. You say you're well in favour of it. 1.5 million people and counting have signed a petition online against it.
Well, look, over 60 million other people haven't signed a petition against it. It does have public support, but of course, there will be people who've signed that petition who've got legitimate questions and want reassurance. We'll go through that as we go through the public consultation. But I'd give you this example, which is that a few years ago, the Passport Office improved their use of data and turned the system entirely digital. Anyone who in the UK has got a passport in the last few years has seen how much better it is to get a passport. It's quick, it's easy, it's intuitive, it brings data together. How great would it be if that wasn't an exception that proves the rule, but the new standard for government, if we had 10 or 20 use cases like that? So there's loads of benefits that can come from it. But look, we're also up for the debate and the argument on this. This is about whether or not the UK can be brought into the 21st century. We're in favour of that. I look forward to hearing from the Greens, the Lib Dems, Reform and the Tories about how they're going to introduce measures that will tackle bringing down the number of people who are here working illegally if they're not going to use a digital ID.
OK, well, you've finally got to the argument that I thought this was all about people working illegally and trying to stop the small boats. Are you moving away from that as an idea? Because let me put the question to you first. Are you moving away from that argument because you know that it's probably not going to make any difference to someone who comes here illegally, whether they end up working illegally if they've got a digital ID somewhere?
Well, respectfully, I did talk to you about fraud and ID theft. So throughout the interview, I've been talking to you about the benefits that it could have on that issue. In Sweden, where they have digital ID,
which is what we were told it was going to try and tackle.
Yes, and if you can make sure we close loopholes for people who are working here illegally, you reduce the pull factor to the UK. So it is linked to small boats. And that's the first use case that we've chosen to focus on, and rightly so. In Sweden, where they've had digital ID, they've seen in certain sectors of the economy where they've looked at it, having a digital ID that's mandatory, that's linked to other data, effectively tackles people who are working illegally in sectors, and it closes those loopholes. So this is an important tool that we need to tackle this issue. And as I say again, anyone who is opposed to it in other political parties, I look forward to their ideas that they're bringing forward to tackle this issue. And I'm sure there'll be people watching at home who themselves have got relatives or friends, or maybe themselves have tried to do right-to-work checks in the last few years, for example, in the NHS, and it takes months. It involves loads of bureaucracy. It involves taking all your own ID, photocopying it, scanning it, taking photos of it on your phone, emailing it to people then manually looking through it, then emailing it off to other people for checks. It's a bureaucratic nightmare. So what we need to do is make the UK economy more productive. That means measures like this that speed up processes, make them more convenient, and go after fraud. The first effect of that will be found in bringing down the loopholes that are there for people working illegally in the UK economy.
OK. Last one on this, because I want to move you on to something more within your department, Josh, if I can. But how much is this going to cost to bring in these digital IDs?
We've not set out those details yet. They will come, so we're going to do a public consultation, and it'll obviously go through all the measures in Parliament. But the last point I referenced to you there about the bits of the public sector as well as the private sector, where we're spending loads of money on pushing paper around in a pretty messy way that takes a long time. There's big costs there at the moment for the country in doing right-to-work checks. This will bring a lot of those costs down. And again, the example I'd point to is the really successful change we made to the Passport Office a few years ago as a country. That has made that process cheaper too. So there's lots of benefits from this. The big choice on digital ID is, do we move into the 21st century, or do we stay stuck with a broken state?
OK, let's move you on to a topic that's going to definitely come up at conference, the two-child benefit cap. The Prime Minister has said in the paper today, we're going to bring down child poverty. That's the clear intent of this government. Are we just waiting now? Are you guys going to announce this at conference that you're going to scrap that cap?
Well, we've announced measures already as a government to reduce child poverty, for example, by 100,000 by expanding the number of children that will benefit from free school meals. This morning, I'm really pleased to be announcing that we're going to be expanding in April the number of schools that are eligible for the free school, for the Breakfast Club pilot. That's going to be an extra 2,000 primary schools that are getting the funding to do free breakfast clubs. And that will benefit 500,000 children in this country, as well as having practical benefits for parents in the morning rush. So we are serious about this. The Prime Minister has said he wants to bring child poverty down. I'm not sure that's particularly newsworthy, because that's always been the Labour Party's position. It's always been the Prime Minister's position. What we need to do is grow the economy, make sure we've got money there to make choices, to do things like this. And it is absolutely the Labour Party, the Labour government's intent to bring child poverty down, and we're already starting to do it.
Yeah. You'll know that education unions say that 500,000 extra places for free school meals is great, it's welcome, but it's not going to be enough to reduce child poverty. They want the two-child benefit cap scrapped. Gordon Brown wants it scrapped too, and he's got a plan for how to pay for it. And 101 of your colleagues think that Gordon Brown's plan to tax gambling is a good idea and a way of paying for it. When will you get close to being able to tell us if you are going to remove that cap, Josh?
So look, we want to, and all the people you've listed, all want to bring child poverty down, because that has a massive impact on children's chances growing up. It has a big impact on how they do at school and in early years settings, which obviously I care a lot about as a former teacher and as an education minister in the Department for Education. The two-child benefit cap changes would be a really big way of bringing child poverty down. I think everybody recognises that, but there are lots of choices to make about how to use money to effectively tackle child poverty. I'm not setting those out today. I'm explaining that the thing we are funding and announcing today is an extra 2,000 primary schools that will get free breakfast clubs from April next year. That's a promise we made at the election. It's a promise we're keeping, and it'll have an impact not just on child poverty, but also for parents that are working in the mornings, rushing around, takes a bit of pressure off them and helps with the cost of living as well.